Hey everyone, welcome to WittCode. In this video, we're going to learn what React state is, including how it works, why it's needed, and how it's different than regular JavaScript variables. So first, let's define what React state is. So React state is data that a component needs to keep in memory or remember. For example, a user's component might need to store a list of user information. A current country component might need to store the currently selected country, and so on. What's important about React state is that changes to React state cause a component to re-render so that the UI can be in sync with the new state. Regular JavaScript variables do not cause a component to re-render. In the code we have here, clicking this button increments this count variable. So we have initially count equal 1. When we click the button, we increment count by 1 and log it out. However, if we click this button, it's not reflected in the UI. But if we open up the console, and let me zoom in here, we can see how the count is being incremented. It's just not being reflected in the UI. And this is because changing a regular JavaScript variable like this doesn't tell React to re-render the component. If we want our component to re-render, then we need to manage some state. So let me replace this count here with state, which we can of course do using the use state hook. And now let's change our increment function here to update our count state. And now when we click this, we can see that the UI is updating as well as being logged to the console. And now let's talk about React state and persistence. So React state also persists between renders while regular JavaScript variables do not. So as an example, let me paste in some code that uses both state and also a regular JavaScript variable. So in this code here, when we click this button, it increments both the regular JavaScript variable and also the state. And now we're going to log out both of them here. So let's log this or click this button. And we can actually see, I think I might be blocking it. We can see how both variables are being logged. However, the regular count is always reset to 0. So reset to 0 here, reset to 0 here, here, and yet the React state count is always being incremented. And that is because the state is managed by React. So all this is right here is a function. And so when a re-render happens, this function is called, and it causes these log statements to be logged again. And when this happens, the regular JavaScript variable is reinitialized, while the React state variables are not. And of course, React handles all of this under the hood. Next, let's talk about React state and scope. So React state, something important about it is that it's also local to the component. And this means that even if a component is created multiple times, each one will have its own state management. So to demonstrate, let's change this app so that all our counter logic is moved into a component called counter. I'm just going to paste this in. So now we have a counter component right here, which manages some count state. And then our out component simply returns 2 of these counter components. And now when we click this, actually let me scroll this down here. So now we have 2 counter components. And when we click them, notice how the state is only incrementing for each one individually. So even though in our counter component we have 1 state here, if we create 2 instances of this counter, they will each have their own count state, which is why they both don't increment together. If we wanted both of these to change, then we would have to make them share the state. And to do this, we could move it, move this count state to the top level of it, or to its parent component, and then pass it in as a prop. So now we have our count state in the parent component, or the app component, and then we just have 2 counters, but we pass in the state as props to each of them. And then now when we click the button, we increment it. And because the state is shared, if we click either one, notice how the value increments each time. But so this is my video on what React state is. If you have any questions, leave them for me in the comments and I'll try and get back to you. Besides that, I want to thank you for liking and subscribing and also downloading my Chrome extension called WittCode, link in the description. But besides that, thank you and have a good one.